Chapter 3: The Anatomy of Anger. Recognizing your triggers. Understanding anger. Anger is a challenging emotion, and its impact can be deeply felt. You may have experienced the torment and distress it brings, affecting many areas of your life. Anger has the power to ruin relationships and can even lead to serious health issues like heart attacks. Living a life dominated by anger is far from enjoyable, and it can sometimes feel impossible to change your reactions when you're upset. We commend you for taking the time to reflect on how anger influences your life after reading this book. This marks an important step towards a happier and more fulfilling existence. It's natural for anyone to react with anger when faced with upsetting situations. It's a response seen in individuals of all ages, educational backgrounds, and income levels. The goal of this chapter is to tackle some fundamental questions about anger and build a solid foundation of knowledge for you to draw from. Our aim is to help you improve your responses to anger. We'll address commonly asked questions and delve into the various dimensions of this emotion, encouraging you to evaluate whether your anger serves a purpose. Summary of anger. Anger can be difficult to grasp. You may have felt both relief and regret after expressing your anger. Most likely you can recall moments when your anger felt justified, like when someone did something hurtful to you. However, if you take a moment to be honest with yourself, you might recognize that your rage has sometimes been excessive, lingered too long, or caused unnecessary trouble. Even in instances where you felt justified in your anger, you may remember how it led to conflicts, headaches, regrets, hasty decisions, and other complications. Anger is prevalent in many relationships, an inherent part of being human. Despite its negative aspects, there are some positives to consider. Anger can signal that something in a relationship needs attention. It may help facilitate better understanding between people. When you raise your voice in anger, others may pay closer attention to what you're expressing. Furthermore, anger can motivate you to address problems you've been avoiding and push you toward necessary changes in your life. It can also lead to moments of joy and enthusiasm. We don't want to eradicate anger from our lives. Rather, we need to acknowledge that it can lead to significant losses and pain. When mismanaged, anger can damage relationships with loved ones, colleagues, and friends. Anger can cloud judgment and may contribute to serious health issues like heart disease and stroke over time. Given these consequences, it's crucial to learn how to manage anger effectively. We'll provide you with more insights as you continue reading. Frequently asked questions about anger. What triggers my anger? Often it's the unkindness of people in your life. How can I improve my situation? Let's explore that. What exactly is anger? Anger is essentially an emotion, a state of internal arousal linked with specific thoughts, feelings, and desires. Let's break down its components: self-talk, imagery, physical sensations, speech patterns. We'll revisit these elements in later chapters to help you recognize your anger patterns. Self-talk. Self-talk refers to the internal dialogue you engage in, often reflecting thoughts you'd never say to anyone else. Everyone experiences this continuous internal conversation. You might think, how could that person treat me this way? Expressions of anger in self-talk can vary widely, such as, I can't stand her. I want to make him pay. This is so unfair. A frustrated parent might think, oh, I can't handle these kids anymore. They never listen. I'm just done with this. On the other side, a businesswoman might feel unappreciated, thinking my teammates don't value my contributions. I'm done fixing their mistakes. We'll see what the boss thinks of that. Angry self-talk often includes elements like, I'm furious. This situation is terrible. It's my boss's fault that I'm feeling this way. Sometimes this inner dialogue spills out in social settings. as angry individuals may feel justified in sharing their feelings, especially during conflicts, like a parent scolding a child. Yet others might keep their negative thoughts about a boss to themselves, fearing repercussions like job loss or missed promotions. Component 2. Opinions. Humans are intelligent. We are constantly looking at what is happening in front of us. We plan for the future, as well as look at past events. To comprehend indignation, we need to comprehend our own thinking processes. Consider the example of teasing to understand better the function of your thoughts. Your evaluations, decisions, there is a chain of events that leads to rage. People tease each other all the time to reinforce their bonds, flirt, play, and settle disputes. While most teasing is done in good fun, being mocked can cause feelings of indignation, embarrassment, or humiliation if you view it as offensive rather than humorous. The way you perceive a joke like, well, you know, it all will determine whether you laugh or get angry. Being called dopey, silly, baldy, geeky, or shorty causes anger. As joking comments are seen as degrading, anger arises. The way you judge the intentions of others has an impact on whether or not you get angry. Not every thought results in anger. Most people's rage experiences are accompanied by some similar feelings. Awfulizing. This way of thought has a part in it. Daily annoyances are described as horrible, bad, or terrible when they are. In reality, it's commonplace and manageable. The complaints waste time and energy that could be better spent fixing the problem. It's better to exaggerate and complain about circumstances you don't like in order to find solutions. People don't want to be around someone who exaggerates and complains about their issues. Low tolerance for frustration. People who have a hard time dealing with anger underestimate their ability to deal with adversity. It's perceived as unbearable rather than a natural part of life. There is a connection between low frustration tolerance and awfulizing. You're less likely to assume you'll be able to bear a terrible situation if you think about it. Despite their bluster, people who think this way usually accept the circumstances they complain about. So, how about you? Do you think you're incapable of dealing with life's challenges? Do you see your problems as exciting obstacles to overcome? You've taken on a challenging stance because you feel that other people must act in a certain way. To put it another way, demandingness is the elevation of your personal beliefs to the status of absolute law, as well as the imposing of these rules on others and the environment. We all want others to act the way we want them to. We may wish for the world to accommodate our preferences. There is a distinction between wanting and requesting actions from others. You're implying that you're demanding when you use words like should, must, and ought to. Are you a naysayer? Do you accept the fact that many things in your life will not go as planned? Others' evaluations. The person who sparked your anger is viewed in broad, negative, and extreme terms. You condemn the person's entire existence on the basis of a few acts. When you disagree with a friend or family member, you may think to yourself, who is she to tell me what to do? She's a complete moron. Don't want to be associated with her. If you're annoyed by a careless driver, you might think to yourself, he should get out of the passing lane. What a jerk. What a jerk. At some point, most people you love or admire would let you down. If you're honest with yourself, you'll admit that you haven't always been a perfect driver. If you had disappointed others, driven poorly, or made a mistake, you wouldn't see yourself in a negative light. Thinking of others in broad, intense terms would make it more difficult to solve problems and maintain relationships. She's a complete, you're a jerk. Is any of this ring true for you? Do you condemn someone despite the fact that they do both good and bad things? Is it possible to distinguish other people's individual behaviors from your overall assessment of them? When things don't go as planned, your rage can be caused by your own actions. When this happens, you can be critical of yourself. I'm a slacker, can't seem to get it right. I'll never be effective. It is being reported that if one of your thought patterns is to rate yourself, you are likely to feel guilt, shame, and sadness. Its interpretation or distortion can happen. You're more likely to misinterpret other people's intentions when you're upset. People tend to confuse others' actions when circumstances are vague. How well do you evaluate situations when you're angry? Have you ever had an experience where your predictions were wrong? The experience is the third component. In an earlier chapter, anger was described as a feeling that you have on the inside. The knowledge of three aspects of your anger is the experience part of our model. How long does your rage last? Representations of the bodily sensations of anger. The level of difficulty is determined by intensity. One purpose of learning to control your anger is to be able to communicate it directly to another person. You can use words that represent your anger. You can rate the intensity of your anger from almost no anger to extreme anger. Refer to your anger with terms such as mild, moderate, strong, and so on. How you felt when annoyed, fired up, incensed, and so on. You can express the strength of your frustration to others by building an emotional vocabulary. If you discover that you're annoyed, indignant, or both, as you become more acquainted with the use of those terms, or unhinged with rage, it's important to remember that the proper expression of indignation doesn't need threats of violence. Length of time. You can make an educated guess as to how long your indignation lasted. Next to the relevant word, put a check mark. If the situation is still ongoing and the rage is still present, place a check mark next to the word ongoing. Feelings. People feel a wide range of physical stimuli when they are frustrated. Rapid heart rate, sweating, muscle pain, headaches, an upset stomach, and trembling are some of the symptoms. In reality, trembling, muscle tension, and a rapid heart rate are among the most frequently recorded physical manifestations of rage. The fourth component is action urge. There are a number of factors that influence the desire to act when you're frustrated. It could come directly from the trigger, your emotions, your internal experience, or all three of the first three components of the anger episode. As previously stated, you're programmed to respond to a perceived threat with rage and aggression. You can steal food from a starving dog or get in the way of a mother bear and her children. Biological drives for self-preservation and offspring defense are present in all of us, and they can cause any animal, including humans, to become enraged and violent. Humans, on the other hand, are often confronted with actual or perceived threats that are verbal, symbolic, or otherwise far less severe than those faced by wild animals. If you learn that others are gossiping about you, you might be frustrated. When you're angry, your instinct to act will manifest itself in the form of verbal attacks or actions. In today's world, the desire to behave when we're upset can lead to actions that make the situation worse. There are four main characteristics of an action urge. It is an instantaneous response to a real or perceived danger. The triggering circumstance can be considered before. It may be fueled by one or more of the previously mentioned maladaptive thought patterns, a powerful internal experience, a bodily sensation, or all three. It can lead to impulsive actions. It can be resisted. Since our species' biological history is intertwined with the desire to act, you must learn to pause your reaction to a nasty trigger so you can assess it properly before acting. You can learn how to do it. You don't participate in offensive or retaliatory actions just like other animals if you feel compelled to. You might choose a different route and not give in to the temptation. An impulse can be powerful, but you are not obligated to act on it. Anger expression is the fifth component. Variety of patterns and behaviors can be related to your rage experience. People who are angry express themselves in a variety of ways. The following are some of the most famous. Is there any pattern that resembles yours? No expression. People like to bottle up their anger. You might be aware of your frustration but don't want to express it. Even if you try to keep your anger hidden, you can still have angry thoughts about the issue that sparked your rage. It's possible that you're suppressing your anger because you're not assertive. You may be holding long-term grudges while suppressing your rage, and this action may be stopping you from fixing your problems. Speech that isn't direct. Some people show their rage in subtle ways. There are many ways in which this pattern can manifest itself. Social or professional relationships are destroyed. It is passively resisting demand in employment and relationships to perform at a planned rate. Failure to obey the rules. You don't put in your fair share of effort on team ventures. You ignore requests from romantic partners or other significant people in your life. There is verbal expression on the outside. The most popular way for people to communicate their frustration is through speech, using one or more of the following verbal behaviors: screaming, accusation, endangering, the use of swear words, debating, exhausting, making derogatory comments, use of sarcasm. There is an outward gesture towards a person or an entity. The consequences of physical outbursts of rage are more serious than verbal ones. Here are some examples of this behavior: hitting the goal, kicking a can, slamming. There are items being thrown or broken, slamming the door, loss of land. Anger directed at an object or an individual may be part of a larger trend. The bodily gestures are an outward expression. Here are some examples of body movements used to convey anger: laughing and rolling your eyes, holding your arms crossed, a prominent, a frown. The finger is pointed at someone. It's the best strategy. Some people don't make it a point to be upset. They withdraw from the situation and other people when they become frustrated, despite their best attempts to stop it. Distractions such as watching TV, listening to music, reading a book, or playing a video game can all be used to stop feeling frustrated. Use of substances, the use of alcohol, prescription medications, and recreational drugs can be done in response to angry feelings. Substance abuse, as we discussed in the previous chapter, is a problem that often overlaps with frustration. Using alcohol or drugs to deal with your frustration can help you prevent problems in the short term, but it will almost certainly lead to other problems in the long run. Attempts to resolve. Anger is not necessarily a negative emotion. Sometimes it can help in resolving an issue. When people are upset, they may want to calm down and try and reach an agreement. Have you ever used your frustration to solve a problem or deal with a tough situation? The outcomes are the sixth component. Any rage outburst has one or more positive or negative outcomes. If there is an angry outburst in the future, every result contributes to determining if it will happen again. An angry outburst usually results in a positive outcome, such as gaining someone's attention, compliance, or admiration. You're more likely to do it again. If you've found out that an angry outburst doesn't result in a good outcome, whether it's ignored or not, you and a friend or partner drift apart, you're less likely to duplicate it. If you've discovered that a particular form of angry conduct has been punished, for example, when you've been fired or arrested, you may choose to suppress it. You should think of your anger as having both short and long-term consequences. Short-term result can happen after a rage episode. It has the best chance of affecting the angry actions. Consequence that occurs close to its origin has the most powerful effect. Other people's actions, such as your wife or husband's, child's or employees' immediate compliance with your angry demands, is one potential short-term outcome. The release of two chemicals cause an energy surge. Your heartbeat quickens, your blood pressure and body temperature increase, your breathing quickens, you sweat and your mind sharpens and becomes more concentrated. The chemical rush has given you a sense of control in a situation where you might have felt weak before. Rage can give you the impression of being in charge of a situation in which you felt powerless before. In this way, other people's obedient acts, as well as chemical reactions in your body, reward your rage in the short term. The long-term result of anger emerges after the anger episode has passed. Some long-term outcomes are beneficial. People have told us that their indignation helps them succeed at work and that everyone knows where they stand on tough issues. Being angry for a lifetime has some advantages. People who have responded with rage for a long time seem to have a lot of negative long-term consequences. Anger for some people doesn't just affect behavior, it often disrupts it. Rage doesn't increase communication for these people. Rather, it threatens others. Rage gives people in this community the feeling of being more dominant in a tough situation, but it also leads to violent actions. The consequences of an angry outburst can't be seen for some time. These negative long-term consequences of indignation, including the long-term effects of toxic chemical exposure, take years of frustration, argument, and discord to manifest. It may be difficult to recognize that they are related to rage since they take so long to manifest over the course of a lifetime. For frustration is a very real issue. Here's a list of its long-term negative consequences. Family and relationship troubles. Blemished record. Issues at work lead to exclusion from meetings and a lack of progression. Poor decision-making and increased risk taking result in personal and company failure. Emergency department visits are necessitated by physical accidents. Substance abuse includes alcohol and drugs. Arrest and detention. There are issues at school and at work due to lack of focus and efficiency. The dangerous driving practices, aggressive actions in response to everyday challenges. Hypertension, heart disease, and stroke are related. What have been the consequences of your rage? Consider the immediate, short-term consequences of one of your rage outbursts. Try to think of both positive and negative consequences. What about the long-term results? What do you think the effect would be on your relationship with the person involved? What long-term consequences do you think will happen?